Welcome back to the PokerStars.net European Poker Tour. It is the final table of the EPT London main event. We are already down to 4 players. If you missed the early action, you've missed the eliminations of Chris Moorman, Tamer Kamal, Christopher Frank, and Steve O'Dwyer. Back-to-back final tables for Steve at EPT London. Chris Moorman still without that big live result. But respectable finishes for all 4 of those guys, and we can see the 4 players who remain. Olof Haglund from Sweden, the current tournament chip leader with 9.5 million. Ruben Visser second in chips on 4.19. I'm James Hartigan, joined by Lex Veldhuis from Team PokerStars Pro and Neil Johnson, PokerStars live events specialist. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much.
Hello, hello.
From what I've seen so far this morning, it looks like nobody's really afraid to put chips in the middle. Is that, I haven't been able to watch it very closely, but everything I'm seeing is 60 big blind pre-all-ins kind of thing.
A lot of big flips today, it has to be said, and it was a big flip that saw Steve O'Dwyer lose the chip lead relatively early on, gifting his chips to Olof Haglund, and Steve out shortly after that. First hand back from the break at the new 40-80-10 blind level sees an open from Haglund, 3-bet by Jorgensen. Theo's made it 410 total.
Yeah, this must be a lot of action. I played an incredible amount of hours live with Ruben. He's a friend of mine from Holland, and we played so much together. It's pretty crazy how all-round he is. He can play cash games, tournaments, deep stack, short stack, heads up.
Where does your allegiance lie, Lex? Because obviously Theo is a great guy. He's one of your fellow team pros. But Ruben obviously is someone who used to be on the team pro roster. He's your fellow countryman. You've played a lot with him.
Yeah, well, if Theo was, if we would just be colleagues in a way, then I would definitely, root for Ruben. But I consider Theo as a friend as well. So, it's a toss-up between them. Either way is fine. I guess from Theo you will have to hear about it for about 45 years.
Well, Ruben's had, I know I've seen now, the 2 hands I've seen from Ruben, he had a huge 50 or 60 big blind pre-flip with the young German kid who went out in 6th.
Chris Frank.
Ace-king against 9s, they got it all in pre. Ruben's 9s held. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, James, but he got sucked out on earlier with ace-queen against king-queen on the river.
Mantas Vysotskis got a king on the river to survive.
But that was also like a 45 big blind all-in pre with king-queen against ace-queen. Wow. So no one seems afraid of getting it in.
Yeah, how is this still going?
I was wondering if we would be heads up when I came up to the booth. They said come up at 345. I'm watching them fall left and right. But they're still, I mean, looking at the chips, they're still, we're at what, 250, 300 big blinds in play. So there's plenty of them out there. Just Olaf has most of them.
It's because of the amazing structure, Neil.
Oh, absolutely.
Just a reminder, if you've got a question for Lex or a question for Neil, nuts at pokerstars.tv for your emails. Tag your tweets, EPT Live. Jay's just emailed to say, guys, I want to thank you for an awesome week. P.S. Olaf is a solid cash game player online. Life earnings definitely more than 6,000 with a smile and a wink. Bear in mind that Swedish players often downplay their achievements, shall we say.
Oh, I wonder.
Just do what everyone else does and move to the UK. We are the poker players' tax haven.
Wait, I'm confused. So 6,000's not a lot?
It's more than me.
All right. Now, how long until we get a tweet that asks how much did he lose?
Yeah.
So this is an unraised pot pre. Vysotskis limping the small and betting 80,000 on the flop.
Always a weird dynamic in these kind of spots with a paired board, because it gets floated so often, and you just hope for a check from the small blind, and you're just gonna have to barrel a lot more from the small blind's perspective.
When you've got Vysotskis, I just noticed the bow tie. I'm loving the bow tie.
Yeah, we had someone tell us earlier on that he was originally planning to wear a fake moustache. The kid's obviously got a sense of humour. He went with the bow tie instead, which is 2 of the colours of the Lithuanian flag.
Yeah, I'm liking the bow tie. But Lex, from your perspective, I mean, him and Theo are both playing essentially 30, 35 big blind stacks here. Olaf obviously has a monster chip lead at the table. From Vysotskis' perspective, it's like actually it worked and it got through here, but having Olaf on his left now to try and play out these final 4.
I think that it's going to get a little funky as soon as let me see, as soon as Vysotskis or Jorgensen, if they're going to drop down to, let's say, 15 big blinds. Because then there's going to be this point where it would be better ICM-wise for like the numbers 2 and 3 to wait till that person busts before making any big moves against bigger stacks. So I think then the chip leader can put a lot of pressure, but at this point, I think play is pretty open. Like you can't make any weird EV decisions.
And obviously just clarify, because we've got a lot of people watching who are relatively new to poker, may not be familiar with all the terminology. Just define ICM for us, Lex.
ICM is just always that like the optimal move in a vacuum might not be the optimal move because of the jumping prize money. So there is something to consider, that if somebody has 10 big blinds and the pay jump is as significant as it is here, you know, you win like 40,000 extra, and that you have to calculate that in your decision.
By the way, I love the fact that we have got people who are new to poker and new to EPT Live joining us all the time. And if this is your first live stream, is this the first time you found EPT Live on PokerStars.tv, do get in touch on Twitter or on email. You may not know that we've actually been going since 2007. EPT Live actually began at the end of Season 3 of the European Poker Tour, really came into its own in Season 4. And in recent years, obviously, we've developed things with final tables on a delay, with whole card information, and from Deauville and now here in London, coverage of every single day of the main event, from day 1A right through to the conclusion of the final table.
I think as for now, I think there's going to be a lot of situations with, you know, cutoff or button opening, blinds folding. It's going to be consisting most, and then I think there's going to be, I don't know how aggro he's been, but Haglund 3-betting Jurgensen or Fisakis, because they still have the room.
There's Tio with a 3-bet, I believe, on this one. There's a min raise on the button from Haglund. And yeah, it's the same 410,000 that Tio has done, kind of as his 3-bet since they got four-handed. And
it may just be a perception thing, but I think that Theo's been 3-betting more than any other player at the final table.
I think without following any action, that's a good perception. He's not afraid also to just put it in. I've seen him put it in very light in tournaments. You know, he's one of those feeling-based players. Like, I just don't think he has it. Plus, he doesn't have anything to lose. Also, what I was talking about.
There's your stats, James.
Now, this is based on 95 hands, which obviously is a relatively small sample size, but enough of the final table to give us an idea that Theo has been pretty active.
Yeah, that's really active.
By the way, got a question from Herman, who I'm assuming is also relatively new to EPT Live, asking what is the small circle above the chip counts? Well, we'll get an idea on that when we animate a player's graphic. So first to speak here is Olaf Haglund. And he folds. Ruben Visser on the button. Well, he is raising. So obviously when a player acts, we bring up their name and their bet. So you can see his position. He has the D for the dealer button. We can see he's got 4.3 million at the start of this hand. And that little circle that you're referring to, Herman, that is the percentage of chips that he has in play. It's a little pie chart. So we can say that Ruben almost has a quarter. Theo slightly less than that. And once again, it's the patented Jorgensen 3-bet.
It's going to be interesting to see. Just because I know Ruben is not afraid at all. I think none of them probably are that are here now.
On this, we've reached the point where it's pretty much everybody's raise is 160,000. Like, we've reached that stage of the tournament where everybody's raise is essentially a min raise.
Yeah.
When you're first getting in, I've noticed that at a lot of the tables we've seen that now there's nobody really gets out of line anymore with any kind of pre-flop raising. It's just if we're playing 40-80, the raise is 160 or 170.
Yeah.
And then the raises just aren't quite as significant.
It's also important, you know, that players make those mistakes when they get 4 or 5 handed. They keep opening, even in tournaments, to 3 times the big blind. And, you know, if you just make it like 2.5 if you're not comfortable min raising, if you just make it 2.5, it shows just as much strength and you risk so much less.
Well, it's all about pot control, kind of to an extent as well.
Yeah, you keep your stack deeper as well. So if you think you have an edge on the field, then, you know, that's an advantage.
Folded to the blinds. Mantas Vysotskis raising from the small and gets a fold from Olaf Haglund. Andrew asks on Twitter, are you guys doing the same thing with the week-long coverage at the next event? Yes, we are, Andrew. Live coverage of EPT Berlin kicking off on the 21st of April. 7 days of live coverage of the next leg of the EPT. Should have asked you in Deauville, Neil. Does our live coverage, it doesn't present you with any major logistical problems, does it, as the man who has to organise these festivals?
No, not particularly. It's you know, one of the nice things is with the TV department within Stars and all of our production companies and everything is everybody wants to work together to make sure that we can broadcast everything as well as possible for all the fans, but you also don't want to interfere with the poker. You know, the people who have been watching all the broadcast in the previous seasons and even now, like we had, I think you guys, I wasn't part of it, but I think you guys had a situation the other day where you brought in Victor Blom, and then he had to get moved. And you know, the tournament organizers want to preserve the way the tournament would play if there was no TV cameras.
Sure.
And so Victor's table was going to break, so it broke. And you know, and TV essentially worked around that because it's not fair for the players at that table to continue to play if they wouldn't have, if there was no TV. I mean, whoever was on, you know, had Isildur on their left, probably was happy that table broke. No, from logistically, we haven't had any real issues with this. I think it's a fantastic feature of the EPT. If we could make it a little bit cheaper, you could see it on UKIs and Astraeus and FPS and all the rest of that.
Ruben defends a raise from Hagland, from small blind to Ruben's big blind. Hagland makes it a little bigger just to overcome that position disadvantage. Yep. He'll be out of position, so he wants Ruben to have a slightly smaller range to call with. Otherwise, it just becomes too easy to play in position.
Well, this is what you started to say on the previous one about having a paired flop.
Yeah, it's such an awkward dynamic, just because it's going to get floated so often. This is like such a big advantage for the big blind to be in, just because you have that extra information. I think this is what's going to happen a lot of the times, is just the small blind just giving up on the flop.
Quick update on the high roller. They're down to 6 players now. Eric Spez went out a short while ago, and JC Alvarado has just been knocked out by Fabian Quas. Victoria Corrin on Twitter describes it as a sick beat. JC's kings losing to Quas's 8s. So 6 players remain in that final table, 4 at the main event final table. Hello to Everton Girl, who says, my first time watching the EPT was in Deauville this year. I was not on Twitter then, but I'm glad I found PokerStars.tv. And Erica says, watching EPT live for the first time. In fact, this is my first time watching live poker. Even my first time watching poker. Hashtag Team Olaf Hagland.
Welcome everyone to the webcast.
Now there was a question for you, Lex, on Twitter from Daniel. You can only have one or the other. It's a straight proposition. EPT title or Ajax to win the Champions League?
EPT title. Sorry, homies.
A very honest answer.
Yeah, I'm scared now. I land in Amsterdam, so. I don't know what time, though.
And we don't even know what day. We're not saying what day, we're not saying what time.
Probably going to take the boat now.
It's a very nice ride.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Heads up to the flop here. Vizotskis is under the gun raise, called by Theo in the big. Theo checks. Vizotskis continues for 150,000, and that gets a fold from Theo. Quick reminder for those of you wanting to register for the EPT Live free roll today. The password is OVAL, O-V-A-L, all lowercase. OVAL, the password for today's free roll. I've actually got a question here on the emails, Lex, which comes from Tom in Japan. He says, I've been staying up late out here in Japan every night, and it's been nothing short of entertaining. He says, I want to take advantage of the opportunity to ask Lex a question, because he's one of my favourite players to watch. I really believe there is a point when you eventually hit a turning point and everything in the game becomes so clear. At what point in your career did you find yourself able to break hands down so effortlessly and speak, for want of a better phrase, fluent poker? Did it just come with practice?
I don't know, yeah, it's just experience, and it's just, at a certain point, you just learn to logically think about hands. Plus, of course, a lot of the stuff I'm saying might be not true. Like, it might make sense, but it makes sense for the capacity that I have in poker right now, and somebody better than me might be listening to it and think, wow, that's gibberish. But, you know, if that person comments on it, then I'll learn from that. So it's just important to talk to people better than you, and that just makes you structure your thoughts better.
So raise from Hagland and a re-raise from Vizotskis.
Yeah, there's a second part to Tom's question. We'll get to that in just a moment. Let's see how this hand plays out. Let's see how Hagelin responds to the 3-bet from the big blind.
Since we've been sitting down here, and I know it's only like about the last 10 hands or whatever, Olaf has seemed to, I don't think he's called a 3-bet since we've sat down. He seemed to let these go. Same with the continuations and all the rest.
He asks Mantis, how much are you playing behind?
Of course, I've now jinxed it by saying that.
Not jinxing it, Neil. You're generating action.
Oh,
that's
what I'm supposed to do. I am terribly sorry. There's the re-raise all in, and a quick fold from Veldhuis.
So the second part of Tom's question is, and obviously we get asked this a lot, Lex, is people looking for where they should go for more knowledge. Books, forums, etc., training videos. I mean, yes, you're absolutely right, experience is useful, but where else can people really develop their game?
No, I just like read forums and then try to read forums of people that play like one stake above you. So if you play 1-2, just read what people on 2-4 are saying. And also, you know, it's not so bad to just, if you have a regular that you play against every day, what people do a lot is just ask like, hey, do you have Skype, do you have MSN, and just talk to them. Like, you might give up something to give them your thought process, but you learn so much from it against so many other players.
Ruben Visser raising under the gun.
Here comes Tio's re-raise again.
415?
410, I think.
Discount.
Oh, I might get an all-in.
There is the all-in 4-bet.
You could just tell from the way he counted his chips.
Give the man the red triangle. Theo asks for a count.
And like you said, you can tell just the body language, everything was instant. What's that telling Tio?
It looked a little uncomfortable to me. Like he wanted to show other people like I'm counting. It wasn't very stealthy. And usually stealthy is kind of scary. And this was a little exaggerated. He was pointing at his stacks. It's like, okay, I got so-and-so. Like, but it could also be a reverse tell where, you know, he's acting like, oh, like it's a mathematical decision. And mathematical decisions are usually a little weaker, a little more marginal.
Where you know you got to put it in, but you really don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, yeah, I could barely get a fold, something like that. But
Milko asks, will Berlin be an EPT light production? It will. It'll be the same setup we've got here in London, but bear in mind that the grand final in Monaco is a televised event, so bells and whistles abound. Al Bieber says the live streaming is awesome, especially for true poker junkies. We can get our fill daily and get educated by the pros. And I do want to talk to you about Monaco in a second, Neil.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of fun stuff. Monaco actually will have 2 sets there. So not only will we be filming the Super High Roller and the main event for television broadcast, but we'll have the webcast light set that we've had at the other venues to be able to provide bonus coverage like you guys did yesterday of the High Roller. The 3 hands I think you guys got in with the large tank and the all-ins.
Yeah.
But we'll have bonus coverage of many of the side events and also possibly of the cash games that will be going on for people that have been to the grand final before. This year we have, through a lot of work with our partners in SBM and the legislators down there, we have an expanded cash game offering in Monaco, very much like the PCA, where essentially every game is legal, every stake is legal. We'll start at 2-5. You can play, for those who've been to Monaco before, we've always been limited to no limit hold'em. Last year, pot limit Omaha came in. But this year, stud, draw, Badugi, Badesi, open face Chinese. You know, I'm not so sure if you go really out to like Razdugi and things like that, if those were included in the brief. But all the normal games you would include in the mixed games and everything else will be available there, and at a very competitive rate for Europe, with 2-5 being 3% capped at 15, 5-10 and 10-20, 3% capped at 20, and 25-50 and above, 3% capped at 25.
that sounds really good.
I mean, this is awesome news because it is something that people have legitimately complained is missing from the grand final, but it's not our fault. We have to do what the authorities tell us we can and can't do, but great that that's been negotiated and we can really have a proper cash game. area
Absolutely.
of the festival.
The grand final, while already being the largest tournament experience in Europe, should also be the largest cash game festival in Europe, and that's our goal. It's what we've been working towards. And it also makes it a little bit more palatable for some of the countries, because Monaco is not actually in the European Union. I know for some of our Nordic players, lots of times they won't attend the grand final because the tax implications in their home countries are so significant for tournament winnings. But this makes it essentially, we want to make it a you can't miss the grand final. You have to come. The cash game action, the tournament action, and let's face it, just being in Monaco in May is, you know, the big push behind everything. And we've got a minimum of 25 tables ready to go. I know we've got action on the table here, so we'll move in.
Well, yeah, Veldhuis raised under the gun. Theo defended his big blind, and we've seen this pattern before. Check, bet, fold. But yeah, no, the grand final will be a great experience, and we will be there with 10 days of live streaming. I've got an email here from Matthias to nuts@pokerstars.tv. He says, I suffered a webcast-related injury. Had to run to the bathroom from my computer so I don't miss any hands, but I stumbled on my feet. My left knee smashed into the floor, and I can barely walk now.
That's perfect. Then you can just sit down and watch.
Well, that's one way of looking at it, Lex. The other way is that you wouldn't have missed any hands if you'd gone to the toilet with the PokerStars TV app on your smartphone or tablet device.
Wow,
well
very on
played,
message.
Mr.
Wow.
Hardigan. Well played.
What
Matthias,
a beast.
You can carry us anywhere. Anywhere. We don't want to know where you're carrying us, but you can carry us anywhere now.
I can shill like a pro. Question for Neil, as you are PokerStars Live specialist, why did you guys leave Denmark? Why is there no longer an EPT Copenhagen?
Because nobody wants to play against that many Nordics.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding.
No. Oh, yeah. Maybe.
Lex kind of confirmed. No, it's the goal was essentially to focus on bigger, broader festivals in EPT Season 9. Copenhagen was a fantastic destination. We went there for a number of years. Had many memorable, for the webcast and TV people, we all remember the epic heads-up battle. Or should we just say the really, really long heads-up battles that take place in Copenhagen. I would love to be able to go back for future tournaments and things, but we tended to focus EPT9 to be able to bridge with the national tours. Barcelona makes a nice pairing with Astraeus, London with UK IPT, Eureka and Prague, et cetera, to really make 10-day, 12-day festivals for everyone to be able to come and have something to play.
Yeah, that's generally what I like about all the different tours. It's like the tournaments don't disappear. You know, they're just different things from the same organization.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different labeled.
Is that a check raise on our flop here from Veldhuis?
Hagelin was the pre-flop raiser. Veldhuis defended his big blind, and he has check raised the flop, and it's a chunky raise as well. 175 was the c-bet, 525 is the raise.
That was pretty much a straight pot check raise, right?
Yeah, it's like 3x. I don't know. It's oh, this is like how Victor Blom plays. You continuation bet a king XX board, queen XX board, and he just raises your c-bet. Like almost always, it becomes so incredibly hard to play. The only advantage for Veldhuis being now that he's in position. Oh no, he's actually not. He check raised. My apologies. I'm saying that for Haglund, it's an advantage. You know, because he gets to see what happens on the turn, and
then 9 of diamonds is kind of a messy card for either of their calculations.
Yeah, it's just very hard. Like, what do you do with jacks on the flop or an 8, or because you know that second bet is coming, and you're probably folding the turn, so you know it really ties your hands, and it's a great way to inflate pots without really getting any extra swings.
And they check the turn.
It's a nice straighty flushy board.
Very red.
And like you said, with the 8, it's now put an additional 2 overcards through the check process.
Yeah, it's very hard to play. I mean, still, I'd prefer. Victor usually does it in position, just because that person really has no options on the turn, and now you can still see if somebody really means it, you know. Very dangerous. Like, if you play against real sick players in this spot when you're Haglund, when they check raise, check, and then check, and you check the turn, and you make a value bet on the river, it shows that you probably don't have the nuts. So if you play against people like Dur or Ivy, this is where they just put all their chips in.
915,000 on the river.
Into a pot of 1.4 million. Roughly 2/3 pot bet. And Vysotskis looking a tad confused.
The only thing good for Haglund here is that Veldhuis doesn't have the stack to really push him off, to make him make a tough fold. So
he calls.
8s with a 7. King Queen for Veldhuis. That's okay. Now that you've seen the cards, Lex, now walk us back through that hand, because I find myself a little. I mean,
well, Veldhuis just, you know, he has a pretty damn strong hand there on that board. He kind of wanted to pot control the turn, because if he bets and he gets shoved on, he's in a weird spot. Also, if Haglund doesn't believe his flop raise and floats in position, it's better to give him some rope here so that he can fire. I really hate Haglund's river bet, because he, you know, he wins against all his bluffs anyway.
yeah.
And you're not going to get value from less, so you're just inflating a pot with it in a spot where it would be really terrible if you get called. So why not just check? Plus you can get check raised by worse as well. So it's, if you just check behind, you can realize your equity, meaning you can see the other person's hand, and you always get to like a free kind of showdown, you know?
Well, to use your example for Ivy and Dur, it's like if Veldhuis shoves there, even though his shove is effectively only 1.4 million, it's really hard for Haglund to put the extra million in.
Exactly, and you get into so many trouble spots there. It would be, I think it would almost be better to just bet the turn if you feel like that, you know? Like, I mean, you want to get to the river, but just, yeah, I don't know. It's just a trouble spot.
Well, the net result of that last hand is that Haglund's chip lead has been cut into. He's still in front with 7.38 million, but Vysotskis is now second on the leaderboard with 5.29 million. Are you surprised, by the way, Lex, that Vysotskis didn't 3-bet pre with the King Queen?
Well, you have some deception value. It's disguised a bit. Plus, the last time he 3-bet, he got shoved on. So I guess he just wants to tone it down a little. He doesn't want to create a weird dynamic.
Well, Theo 3-bet here on the button over the top of This Is Open and wins that pot uncontested.
But then with the king on the river then, or with the king on the flop then, you said, you know, you felt the 3x check raise. Is that, I mean...
I think it was too strong. I think I would check raise a little smaller, because then you also make your opponent's range weaker, meaning you don't have to fear the flush on the turn as much, so you can just barrel it.
Okay.
Also, I have to say that if he does check the turn and the turn gets checked back, he has to bet the river, because he gave Haglund the perfect opportunity to just check behind. So I think the river was way too weak.
Reminder of our caption competition in just a moment. Let's see how this hand plays out. Theo first to speak. By the way, I love tweets like this. Why is the stream not in HD? Which part of the word light do you not understand, Peter?
Why doesn't it have Dutch subtitles?
By the way, I am told by our crack production team that we could easily have provided you with an HD image, streaming it on most internet connections. Good luck with that. So Theo's raise called by Ruben Visser in the big blind. A king 8-7 flop with 2 hearts.
Theo adjusting his sizing there. He's been making a 160 the whole time, opting for 175 right now.
Meanwhile, a quick
125 C-bet from Theo.
And a quick update from the high roller. Vicky Corrin is out. Fabian Quas raised. She shoved with 5s. He called with ace-jack. 2 aces on the flop by Vicky.
That was a pretty massive field for the high roller.
It was for the 10K. It was our record with the, when you include the re-entries, it was 137 total, 112 uniques and 25 re-entries. Fantastic field here in London.
So Vicky out in 6th in the high roller. And here's a reminder of our caption competition on EPT Live. Here is the photograph that you have to put a caption to. This is Stapes and Hartigan attempting the Mike McDonald stare down. And here are some suggestions, and I like this one from Manuel. The men who stare at pros. Will has Mike saying, who needs McDonald's when you have McDonald? Infinity Consulting. Oops, I did it again, but they will never know. A lot of fart jokes being made today. And this is from Peter. Mike McDonald admits teaching Theo Jorgensen everything he knows about how to handle chips. A reminder,
I do like that one.
This is a Twitter entry competition. There's no point emailing. Twitter only. Use the hashtag EPTLive, and the best caption that we receive by the end of the day will see its writer awarded with a prize. 2 DVD box sets, Season 1 of the big game, plus a series of poker tutorial shows.
So raise from Hagland, and yeah, we are. Theo is shifting around now. He just went for 400 instead of 410.
Maybe because he's getting a lot of folds. I have a feeling that, I don't know, I have a bad feeling for Hagland that there's going to be a weird dynamic.
I was about to ask you, Lex, I mean, obviously he's been folding a lot to these re-raises. He then had lost that big pot to Vysotskis. Suddenly your overwhelming chip lead has gone. Does your confidence start to go with that?
Well, it's not. Well, I don't know if it's confidence. It's just that one hand that he bet the 8. I think that if you make mistakes, well, what I think he was trying to do is that if Vysotskis turned a 9 or a 10, he was trying to get him off of it, just in case he turned the river the better hand, because all of a sudden he slowed down, and it's usually a sign that people with bluffs suddenly have showdown value. But okay, I still think the bet is not so good, and against people like this, who play so aggro on flops, that mistake, you know, that's really going to hurt you. And not just that pot is going to hurt you, but all future spots, it's just a structural mistake. And that's the problem with it. Like, Ruben will never do that. Like, I can guarantee he will never mistake a showdown value and inflate a pot in the wrong way. And, you know, if everybody's still so deep and there's so much play, then, you know.
And Theo and Ruben absolutely saw that as well.
Exactly.
And probably feel about it the same way that you did.
Yeah, I can guarantee that Ruben was, you know, that he saw that and he's going to make adjustments to it. And
that hand was raise and take it for Ruben Visser. Nathan has a question for PokerStars live event specialist Neil Johnson. Given that you have the PCA, and this is obviously him saying that we have loose interpretations of geography and that the PCA is clearly not in Europe, any chance of getting an EPT aligned with an Australian event?
I mean, well, anything's possible. You know, technically the PCA has appeared on the LAPT, the EPT, and the NAPT. You know, for a while there was think about it. There's a UK IPT in Marbella, in Spain, and that's not exactly where you expect to find a UK IPT. It's a combined event with the Estrellas Poker Tour. So I make it a habit of never saying never when people say, "Are you going to go somewhere?" I think we had a Moon Poker Tour in Deauville or something like that that we were discussing, but. At this point in time, the Asia-Pacific Poker Tour and the Australia-New Zealand Poker Tour seem to have that region pretty solidly covered. So, to the chips, though, since we were asking on Lex's thing, you played with Theo a lot yesterday on the webcast, maybe more than just yesterday, but I heard it yesterday. There was deep discussion about Theo's snake move. He moves him down, and apparently was very much tilting some of our tweeters.
Really? You see,
a lot of people find it even more tilting than the Mike McDonald crane.
Wow, wow! Rethink your basics, people. I think it's he has just as a pattern. I think it's very calming for Theo, and you saw Gus Hansen do it a lot, also on i6 poker and stuff like that. He would do that snake thing as well.
So you think it's more like a Zen calming?
Yeah, it's just a repetition-based thing because he always does the same. I've been watching it for a while when I was really bored at the table once, and it's just a repetition kind of thing that he does. Also, try it. It's kind of badass. It's really not easy to do, so show some respect.
Well, this hand was raised by Theo Pre, but there's been no betting action since. Ruben now leads the river.
Here comes the snake. We got to think.
Yeah, so I think in like 2 moves he'll do it. Or the stack is too big as well. I mean, how can you come across as an amateur when you sit in a poker room like that?
Theo calls. And Ruben shows a 9.
That's going to be good.
You see, there's a difference here. Ruben value bets the 9. That's why he showed it like that. Otherwise, you know, he would have checked and bluff catch. It's just such a different dynamic.
Victor tweets Sorry, just very quickly,
Yeah.
Victor just tweeted to say, Lex, I want to wish you the very best of luck in Berlin. All your fans are coming out today, Lex.
Thank you so much.
In that situation, with Ruben also being first to act instead of, if the positions are reversed and Tio's leading that, then it's probably not it's virtually the same situation as before. But
Yeah.
being the fact that he called Tio's raise and Tio slowed down on the flop and the turn,
yeah, it's just he
gives
knows
him much more information that his 9 is good.
Yeah, exactly. And still value betting is kind of cool because there's a lot of combination that Ruben would play pre-flop that way, that he would defend from the big blind that made a pair now, meaning it's less likely that you're gonna get called by worse, but he estimated it right.
By the way, today's EPT Live free roll is half full. The password, if you want to get into the game, is OVAL, O-V-A-L, all lowercase. 15,000 spots already taken, 15,000 more up for grabs. And yesterday, I managed to finish in around 1,300th place, so I now have 25 cents in my PokerStars account.
Well done, Mr. Hardigan. So what's going to be our theme in Berlin then? Are we going to have what's going to be our theme for passwords? Is it going to be German tube stops?
Well, no, I can't give you the theme now because everyone will then have more than a month to start cracking it and then just be typing in random selections when it comes to the day of the free roll.
You think they do that?
Yes.
Ruben raises small to big, Theo defends, Ruben c-bets. This is the kind of board where I would expect Theo to call an insane amount of hands because almost any hand makes a gut shot or stuff like that, so. With that same thought, I expect Ruben to have something with equity here more often than not, just because he knows that Theo will call him a lot on boards like this. It's usually the ideal boards where you try to just take it down is high card and 2 lows, and this is just so close to each other with a flush draw that you're just gonna get called a lot. So yeah, Ruben's second barrel is not really a surprise.
Because it becomes one of those hands where you're kind of just playing. He's just playing Tio at this point in time.
Yeah, and it's like I do think it is a pretty good hand, and I don't think that there's any point in slow playing because a lot of it is Theo thinking he has showdown with high cards, and he's just gonna check back the turn, and then you lose a street of value.
So Ruben's been called on flop and turn. He now checks the river.
Snap call from Ruben. Pair of 5s for Tio, and there's the flush draw with the rivered queen from Ruben.
Very well played by Ruben, because he knows that Theo is capable of floating twice, that there's still a lot of draws in Theo's range, and he will fire all of those. Again, though, in this cost spot, I have to say, I'm really surprised he bet the 5 there. You're not gonna get a jack to fold, so.
And what are the odds that you're going to get ace high or king high to call?
Yeah, exactly.
Zoom says, awesome insight from Lex, how players like Blom and Ivy think in certain spots. And a tweet from Alex Smith. Good luck in Kansas City, Alex, and thank you for the last 7 seasons. I'm enjoying commentary from Lex. Question for him as he grinds PLO online. How tough are the games now compared to No Limit Hold'em Cash?
Games are kind of soft, actually, and it's because it's just a much less mature variant of poker. There's just a lot of new people, a lot of people that are trying to figure it out. There's not a lot of information out on the internet, so everybody's developing at their own pace. That's the cool thing. It's like No Limit Hold'em was 6 years ago, so that's what makes it so much fun for me.
Well, here's a question back to Lex on something you said earlier. Tio is now down to 21 bigs, and the others are in the mid-60s and above for Olaf. Are we now kind of approaching that position that you were talking about, where the other players now, especially the Ruben and Montes, I mean, Ruben doesn't really play like this, but we have to wait for something to happen to Theo before they really, really go crazy.
Yeah, I think so. He's getting to that point. Like, if he goes a little lower, and I can tell you that Ruben especially plays like that. Like, Ruben will be calculating the whole time right now, just thinking about his moves. I mean, there will be situations like if Theo has you know, maybe not with this money jump, but certainly with the next one, if somebody is very low, that you're gonna raise fold, ace queen pre-flop, stuff like that.
Vysotskis calling in the small, Hagland checking his option. Worth pointing out that both Visser and Vysotskis have really cut into his lead now. Olaf drops below 7 million. Ruben officially second in chips with 5.5 million.
Going briefly back to Monaco, Lex, as kind of a traveling player and stuff, when you hear like you know, the expansion of the cash games and all that, when you're picking stops to go to and things like that, I mean, when knowing that there's going to be a decent rake and a lot of games and like what we do at the PCA and what we're now going to be able to do in Monaco for the traveling players and stuff like that, what does that say to everyone about that event?
Well, it's just, it becomes a more full body event. You don't have to worry about playing online while you're there. Hotel internet maybe here and there. You know, it's just like any way you could possibly be making money at poker is offered. You can play sit and goes, cash, and tournaments. That's all kind of.
Well, I've got a question for you, Neil Johnson, and I know it's a question you get asked a lot. Poker City says, how about an EPT in Amsterdam?
You know what? The minute it becomes legal, I'm sure we will be happy to go there. You know, I know there's movement kind of within the country as it stands, but it's you know, until we essentially go where we're allowed to go, and at this point in time, that's why there's no EPT Helsinki or EPT Stockholm or EPT Amsterdam at this point in time. But certainly EPT Amsterdam would be a phenomenal event. I think it's the first time that we are given a chance to go there. It could be 1,200, 1,500 players. It's especially when you consider the underage players in the States that haven't moved out or whatever, but the ones that are from 18 to 21, you got to figure Amsterdam's kind of Disneyland to those players for numbers of reasons that we won't go into, but more than just poker.
Yeah, it's just I don't know, it's just a very popular destination for people of any age to go. And it's also, you know, if you could combine it with your work or playing an EPT, and it's one of those cities where everybody wants to have been at least once, you know.
A reminder that we've got Lex Veldhuis from Team PokerStars Pro and Neil Johnson, PokerStars live event specialist, in the booth. Questions and comments welcome on Twitter using the hashtag EPT Live or on the emails nuts@pokerstars.tv. Banger's obviously just tuned in and has seen the final four and asked, have there been any deal talks yet? There haven't, and
I wouldn't expect them necessarily with these guys.
But we don't normally get deal talks forehanded anyway, do we, Neil?
We've had a few of them. It depends. Oh, there's an all-in from Tio, actually.
Over the top of Hagland's open. 20 big blind shove. We're just going to verify it, but we have it at 1.6, and that's enough for Hagland to fold.
Yeah, we've had a few four-way deals. It's just with these players up there, I wouldn't expect it at this point in time.
No, I would say that's true. Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure what Ruben and what the individual players. Usually, when I look at this scenario, it's what the individual player feels about the other players still remaining in the event.
True.
You know, that's always going to be taken into consideration. And I would just assume that a couple of these guys are looking around and going, I can still beat these guys.
Yeah.
And there's no reason to talk deal at this point in time.
So we're halfway through this level, by the way. Still four-handed. And Theo just above the 20 big blind mark now. We've mentioned it before, but it's worth reiterating that Theo is going for the Triple Crown here in London.
Oh yeah, crazy.
That's right, I heard that yesterday. I mean, I obviously know quite a bit about Ruben and Tio. What Mantis and Olaf, obviously we have someone who's told us that Olaf has won $6,000 playing cash games online. What's kind of the background for Mantis and Olaf?
Well, Mantis is crafty _LT online, and he's notched up $600,000 in online winnings on Stars, and he actually was a runner-up in the Sunday Million just before Christmas, and he's very well known and very well respected in the Lithuanian poker community. Olaf was a paperboy, and he resigned from that job when he obviously started making some decent money online. Just how much money he's made online, we don't know. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But this is his first ever EPT main event cash.
Okay. You know what that tells us, though? It tells us that paperboys in Sweden are not paid very much at all. If his winnings are 6,000.
That's a big if, Neil. A big if.
So essentially, kind of off those descriptions, it's pretty safe to say that Olaf is kind of the one of the four here. And yes, he has the massive chip lead, and I know he won a huge flip with Steve O'Dwyer early on. Ace-King against Queens is what someone told me. So huge early on flip against Steve O'Dwyer to build his chip lead. But he would be the one kind of these four with the least experience of being here.
With the exception of a couple of early arguable errors, a couple of 3-bet, 4-bet bluffs that maybe didn't quite work out, I have to say I've been pretty impressed with Ruben Visser, especially during short-handed play.
It's always like you don't really notice him, but he gains chips. And I think that's about the most optimal you can play. Keeps spots very small, you know, he's a lot of confidence in his flop play. From there you can kind of see that he's a really good cash game player too, you know, because they bring that to tournaments.
Well, I think I heard Stape say earlier that this is now his deepest run, surpassing his earlier run.
I believe he was 6th in the 2012 PCA, and obviously as soon as he was guaranteed 5th, he improved on that finish. But I get the impression from Ruben, and obviously we got the opportunity to speak to him in Deauville when he joined us as a guest commentator. Like all players, he's looking for that title, that first big win.
Yeah.
Yeah, look what Lex risked in saying that's what he'd rather have.
Yeah, exactly.
Check call on the flop from Hagland. And then Ruben bets out 290,000 now. It's about a half pot bet on the turn.
It's also like, it's kind of tough in Hagland's situation. If you check call the flop with a 10, you know, the jack just is not only a scare card, it gives so much equity to king, queen, ace, queen type of hands that they didn't have before.
Hagland getting really beaten up on by these guys, whether it's pre-flop 3-bets or getting double-barreled, and Visser is now up to 5.7 million, Hagland down to 6.4.
And it's kind of all three of them to an extent. I mean, I know Tio's chips have kind of moved around a little bit in other directions as well, but all three of them have taken 1 or 2 or even 3 shots at Olaf's stack, just chipping away at it.
Malcolm tweets to say, entered your free roll and expect to fail miserably. First time I'll be playing poker for a year and a half. It's free, Malcolm, and I'm going to give you some advice. 2 decentish cards, just get it in pre and hope for the best, mate. It's a free roll. Oval is the password you need, by the way, if you want to register for that game. OVAL. Nat has a question for you, Neil. Has the EPT ever considered a UK city other than London? I mean, obviously we've got the UK IPT, but for a European Poker Tour event, is there anywhere else we could potentially go? And he's floated Edinburgh as his suggestion.
Edinburgh is a beautiful city, and the UK IPT that's up there is very well received. It's been during Fringe Fest a couple of times, which I've heard was an amazing addition to have that going on as part of the UKI. There's certainly cities within the UK and Ireland that would hold. We were in Dublin a couple of times in the early seasons. It's just one of those where, you know, if you're going to go to the United Kingdom, you go to London. It's you know, if the tour was to expand again at a later date to where we were putting in additional stops, then other things would be I'm sure would be considered. But right now, you kind of want those crown jewels. Those you know, it's like you wouldn't have a Munich stop before you had a Berlin stop. You know, with respect obviously to Deauville, I think EPT Paris, if we were able to put it in Paris, would probably be better attended than Deauville, even though Deauville is an amazing EPT for most people. The same if you could do EPT Rome, even though EPT San Remo has had the largest fields in the history of the EPT, outside of PCA fields.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when you're staging poker in licensed premises, you can't just pick a destination and say we want to go there. There's a lot of factors that have to be considered.
Absolutely, and all the regulations, all the things, even using Barcelona as an example, when it's been expanded to the Arts Hotel, which is a beautiful hotel, and we've got all the conference space down below, we're only allowed to be there because it's physically connected to the casino. That happens to be the law in Spain, that if you use the space, it must be physically, by concrete kind of thing, connected to the gaming space. So if that wasn't the case, then we wouldn't have been able to do that in Barcelona. So
that's like such a good location too, because the Arts Hotel is like one of the best hotels in Europe. Then it's one of the nicest areas because you have beach and everything, and it's
the beach and the bars and the clubs and everything. Yeah,
everything is there.
Yeah, Barcelona is absolutely one of my favorites. I'm really looking forward to going back this year.
Has there been any dates confirmed yet?
There are no dates confirmed for EPT Barcelona, but for the really creative about there, I bet if they went to the Estrellas website, they would find dates for Estrellas Barcelona.
Oh.
And if they looked at EPT8, when the Estrellas and the EPT were combined, you might be able to put 2 and 2 together, or 2 plus 2, pardon the pun, and figure a few things out.
Lex, I know you're not going to be with us for that much longer, so I've got a question for you here on the emails. We've seen Theo call muck a lot. He's willing to call players down on the river, but obviously we've seen him lose a lot of chips as a consequence of that. However, is he buying value in the sense that it's actually hard to win against him without having significant showdown value because he's not folding river much?
Yeah, of course, that's part of his plan. And the thing is, he will adjust to that too. So at a certain point, he knows like in what situations with what kind of hands he's been calling people down and how their frequencies will change, you know, because Theo is a very profitable player. And he's been playing since forever, so he's mature in that way where he just knows. It's kind of hard to play Theo out of position because of that too.
And okay, if I'm reading the graphic right, so Theo's dipped down to 1.8 million. So he's down. He is now down to, or 1.7 million, excuse me. So he's back down to the 21 bigs again.
Yes. Thank you to Joe, who says that Ruben was 8th in the 2012 PCA. Keeping you honest, James.
That's not like you, James, to not know that.
Do you know why? Do you know why? It's because Stapleton said, oh, by finishing 5th, he's gone one better.
That's it. Blame the man who's not here to be on the microphone. Well done, Hardigan.
Absolutely.
It's all right to miss one once in a while.
Absolutely.
Never trust
Difference from the
American.
start of day. Yeah, it's all Olaf and Veldhuis. Have we already had 120 hands, really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. I know for you, you've lived every single one of them. So it's not...
Plus he remembers them too.
Yeah, not that shocking to you.
No, I remember random stuff. I really struggle to remember key hands.
Do you know all the free roll passwords there have been this week? If you would have to make a bet.
I know Stapleton only remembers one.
Cockfosters.
We were both here for that one.
The sad thing is, yes, I remember every single one of them.
Oh.
So Ruben Visser opens, makes it 175,000. Theo makes what has to be a virtual all-in from the button.
He 3-bet to 905,000.
That's more than half his stack. I mean, he's committed.
I mean, Ruben, what was Ruben's bet? 170, 175?
Yeah. Is there any value in doing this, Lex? I mean,
Well, I'm trying to calculate if...
I mean, why do you not just shove here? You're obviously never folding.
I don't know. It's Theo. It's like maybe he was too lazy to grab the yellow chips as well, just so that everybody knows it's kind of an all-in.
You don't have to grab the yellow chips. You can just say all in and get that handy red triangle put in front of you.
This is true.
For Ruben, what's, you know, all in and call. Okay. Oh, that's ace-8, ace-9 for Ruben?
Ace-8 for Ruben Visser. And Theo has moved all in with pocket 4. So we have another race on our hands. A lot of flips at this final table. And Theo is flipping for his tournament life here and needs that pocket pair to hold.
What do you think of the ace-8 from Ruben, Lex?
I think again it's light. It's definitely light. But Theo has been so active, and you know that Theo is not going to just dwindle down. So
do you think it's easier to put Theo on a smaller pair with that type of move? Because you got to figure that he's not doing it with kings or aces.
With his whole range.
He does it with his whole range.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also you have to consider that if Theo gets knocked out, Ruben has an easier time.
No ace or 8 on the flop.
Ruben does have the 8 of hearts in case that comes into play.
Visser looking for an ace or an 8 or running straight cards here. Still looking good for Theo's double up.
No counterfeits because the 4s cover.
Just an ace or an 8 eliminates him.
Ooh.
Oh!
It's an ace on the river, and we lose Theo Jorgensen from Team PokerStars Pro.
A little bit of a splash with the last yellows there in River discussed.
Obviously gutting for Theo. He's got so much emotionally invested in this tournament, going for the Triple Crown, going for his first EPT title. He's out in 4th for £183,000. And obviously making an EPT final table is a huge achievement. And let's not forget that this marks the return of Theo Jorgensen to live poker after that horrible incident just before Christmas.
Absolutely. What he went through at Christmas time and everything, to be back, we're, what, 2.5 months later? And to go through the whole week, make the final table, come in fourth, tremendous week for him.
And with that hand, we will bid adieu to Lex Veldhuis. Worth pointing out, Lex, that your other pick, Ruben Visser, your fellow countryman, is now the chip leader with nearly 7.5 million.
I'm going to rail him as soon as I can.
Thank you very much to Lex Veldhuis from Team PokerStars Pro.
Thank you, Lex.
Thanks, guys.
Neil Johnson, PokerStars Live Event Specialist, is going to stay with us. Joe Stapleton will be back in the booth in just a moment as we are down to 3 in the EPT London main event. Ruben Visser with 7.4 million, Olaf Haglund with 6.6 million, Mantas Vizotskis with 5.2 million. They've asked for the tournament clock to be paused, which implies, Neil, the final 3 players may want to count their chips and potentially discuss some kind of deal.
I think that's probably where we're headed now. I mean, I would have initially been inclined to think that Ruben probably would not be that interested in a deal. However, I mean, we're looking at 5.5 against 6.5 against 7.5. And with the money still in play, you know, it's about 1 point, what are we at, 4.5, 6, 7, so there's 1.4 million in play. Everybody's locked up 250, but it's a 200,000 jump and then a 300,000 jump. So I think, you know, they're definitely going to be talking about it now.
And here's my question is, are they required to discuss the deal at the table? I just want to know whether we'll be able to hear them discuss that deal.
They should be doing it at the table. I'm going to put my mic down and text the guys down there real quick to make sure that that gets moved to the table if they're speaking about it off the table.
Thank you very much, Neil. So a reminder that it is the players' money and they are allowed, under the rules of the European Poker Tour, to discuss some kind of potential money chop based on their chip counts. There is a rule in there that 10% of the remaining prize pool and the trophy and title have to be played for, so they can't just stop play now three-handed. They are going to have to play it out. But understandably, with big jumps between third, second and first, they may want to consider doing some kind of saver deal. And obviously, we will hear, hopefully, if they do decide to discuss any kind of potential business. As Neil Johnson, PokerStars Live Event Specialist, just reminded us, they are required to discuss that actually at the final table. And we welcome Joe Stapleton back into the booth. How was the massage, Joe?
Fantastic. Really, 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 really good. Best dealers in poker, best masseuses in poker. Or
The
masseur,
best.
as it were, which is what I had.
The best hands.
I don't get the extra E on it.
Maybe there's another company out there that's called The Best
The
Hands.
best hands.
And so Suki had to go with The Best Hands.
Weird marketing choice.
They're
Well,
all fantastic, though.
Could have gone
Absolutely.
with the bestest hands, just to trump the...
That I like.
Could have the bestest hands. And then the new girls on the thing would just have, you know, best hands, the bester hands, and the bestest hands for the senior people on the team.
So those are the advertised payouts, and those are the chip counts of the remaining 3 players. Very close between Visser and Haglund. And Vizotskis not that far behind.
Yeah, I mean, with these stacks, these guys could play for, you know, the next 6 or 7 hours.
I've been told the players have gone to the bathroom, but they are being called back to the table before they have any kind of conversation about how this tournament plays out, Neil.
It's one of my favorite parts to watch because, you know, I mean, obviously I don't know about you guys, but I'm not at the final table of many million-dollar tournaments as a player. So to get the insight into what everyone thinks, we had an EPT a few years ago where there was very heavy-duty deal discussion, and one guy ended up turning the deal down, and he ended up coming in third. And
That was in Prague.
Well, I don't want to say where it was because I don't want to call people out.
Oh, sorry. Too late.
It wasn't actually Prague, though. It wasn't actually Prague. I will confirm it wasn't the Prague. But when he then ends up losing a flip and going out in third, and he ended up, you know, when you see him walking away, he'd won a significant amount of money, but he lost more money by turning down the deal than he actually ended up winning. And it was myself and the tournament director, Thomas Kremser, at the time, were kind of looking at each other going, it's a mistake. It's also one of the reasons we try and keep backers and stakers and all of the rail away. We'll allow people a translator or one person to help them, but you don't want people who
You don't want a
playing.
committee, right, either? I mean, that's
Exactly.
mucks things up.
Well, I mean, I do want to bring up the deal in Prague, Neil, because obviously everyone saw it on the internet, so it's no secret that it happened, and it's no secret how it played out. And we saw there the guy who finished third and I'm sorry, his name escaped me for the time being, but this is a guy who works in finance. He's not a poker player, and you could see that deal negotiations were his thing. But it's amazing how he just pushed it one step too far, and suddenly, having locked up what we all thought was an amazing deal, and we couldn't believe that Ramsey Jalassi had conceded to most of his requests. He then just thought, well, if they've gone that far, maybe I can just get some more. And at that point where it all fell apart.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, it's something that our tournament directors and all of us, we try and watch very carefully, because you have to, while we want the, deal making is a part of MTT poker now. It's just the way it goes. Happens online, happens off live. It's a skill, in my opinion, is can you cut a good deal? Do you know the value of your chips and your skill against the other players?
I want to address a couple of tweets that have come in. One who says, chops are for, we'll say, wimps. And another says, true ballers don't make deals. I can guarantee you that these sorts of statements are being made by people who have never been in tournaments like this.
And it's funny, Joe, because you mentioned those tweets, and I was talking about the Prague final table. When they started talking about business at the Prague final table, I remember saying the line on air, cue all the tweets from the microstakes grinders telling us how they would never do a deal.
Yeah, that's incorrect. It's all well and good to say that. I can only think of a few poker players who would say they would never make a deal ever. If your definition of baller is those 2 or 3 players, fine. But right now, baller has been replaced in poker by people who make sound mathematical decisions, people who understand the value of their chip stack, the value of the prize jumps, and not making deals a lot of times is a minus EV play. It is mathematically unsound. You're giving away money sometimes.
Well, and it's a little different here as well. These guys are, on average, I think they're 75 big blinds deep, pretty much almost all 3 of them. So if they said we don't want to deal now, we're just going to sit here and we're going to play, that's perfectly acceptable. What if we're still doing this 4 hours from now, and now they're only 30 big blinds deep?
I don't mean you're silly to not take a deal. I mean you're...
Never played APT before. Okay, what did you play?
Just wanted to listen in here and see if they are actually talking.
Yep.
That's very good.
So what do you think in like deal-wise?
Let's see the numbers which you count.
Yeah, I can make ICM numbers, but I would want more than ICM.
Yeah, because you got...
Ruben wants more than ICM. He wants more. I guess he feels he's got the edge.
That's what I was going to say. That's why I was surprised they started talking deal, because I would figure that Ruben thinks he's better than these two.
Get the number. What's your chip size?
5.2.
So the deal amount is 10%. Between 10% and 140,000. Okay, that's remaining in
the rest of it you can do as you like. We can help you with chip equity also if you want.
That's Toby, the tournament director, you can hear. We do require they leave a little money to play for.
Yeah, let's have a count. I'm going to be on my computer. I have
Okay, so Toby's going to go away and just run the numbers.
these are ICM equities.
Yeah, traditionally we ask for roughly about 10% of the prize money to remain for first prize. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to zoom in on Ruben's phone.
The point I was making is those people that categorically do not talk deals are very, very few and far between, and there are people who are ballers who would in fact discuss the deal.
Oh, of course.
That's all. To say no to a deal in a particular situation, yes, that's very common.
We had deal discussions at the 100K Super High Roller with Justin or with Galen Hall, Dan Shack, and Victor Blom on the table, and they did discuss it briefly. But then they just settled on not doing it.
There's a great deal discussion in in the Super High Roller from this year that will eventually make it to TV. James and I just voiced.
The one with Doc Sands and Scott Seaver, yeah.
This is awesome. Chris has just tweeted, I'd rather be a rich wimp than a broke baller.
Amen and hallelujah.
Well said, Chris.
Can we get a waiter as well, please? I'd like to drink.
We send a waiter to the feature
We
table.
want a chop by chip and also 3 steaks.
Looks like I have fruit bowls. Maybe more fruit. We're healthy on the EPT now. Daniel's trying to move us all vegan. Now here's to our crack staff. How tight can you zoom in on Toby's computer?
These are fixed cameras, unfortunately, Neil, but just in case you've tuned in and thought, why is there a guy in a suit playing online poker on our final table? That is Tournament Director Toby Stone looking at the chip stacks and assessing the equity of each player remaining as they discuss a possible deal.
Well, guys, just off the top, we've already heard Ruben say that he wants more than ICM.
And if you're one of these guys, I think that that's reasonable to expect, and it just depends how much more he wants.
40, take out of there. So basically it's first place, second place, third place. Okay.
Toby showing them how he's doing the ICM calculations.
This is each one of you receiving third place.
Essentially, Toby's guaranteeing everybody the 245,000 right now, and then they're doing the chip modeling on the remaining money.
6 million, 6,670,000.
Could I have a sugar-free Red Bull, please? Sugar-free Red Bull with ice.
7,400,000.
Sugar-free Red Bull? Never mind. Apparently there's a caption contest downstairs for Olaf with the fingers above Ruben's head. Yeah, it might not be very exciting for everybody watching at home, but this is a distinct part of tournament poker now, being able to do this.
Well, I'm excited.
Taken away.
I want to hear the numbers.
So this much is this much is this. Okay, so this is your equity split.
We still have to take 140 out of those three numbers, right?
It's out. It's out.
Yeah, 140,000 is what Toby has held. He's held an exact 10%.
Total prize pool is 1.4.
Neil, if you were each of these guys, what kinds of piece would you be looking for?
I mean, if I'm Olaf or Mantas, I mean, Mantas has gone deep online and stuff. I don't. It's obvious that Ruben's the more accomplished player, but they have both held their own.
I think that's a good point, Neil, and I think that it
We're
doesn't
also
just matter
super
on.
deep.
It doesn't just exactly, which is going to give the person with the edge a little bit, is going to make that edge maximized.
Yep.
But it also depends on how much of an edge each of these players thinks, how good they think they are themselves, what kind of self-confidence they have.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Olaf and you think, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to him, but he's probably the weaker of the three players that's left. Not saying he's not any good, just saying of the three people sitting there. And he is in the middle between both of them. So he doesn't necessarily have the most kind of ideal position for this. And it also sometimes comes down to how much does the money matter to the player. You know?
Definitely.
Like if, you know, we had a couple of years ago in EPT London, Peter Eastgate came second. There was never even a sniff of a deal because he just won the World Series of Poker.
Does yours take this third place into consideration?
It does, but it doesn't take out the 140.
Doesn't take out 140.
Yeah, Ruben's phone and numbers that he did didn't remove the 140,000 that EPT asks that they hold out.
We could just drop one third of 140 from everyone.
Then we can see the numbers we get.
I mean, from what we can see there, all three of them seem very interested in a deal. They seem happy to kind of redistribute the money, as it were and set it up.
Just depends on what they actually end up being.
Well, this is exactly. They've seen the actual numbers, but they haven't heard yet what Ruben wants.
Exactly.
And I totally understand why Ruben would be asking for better than a straight chip chop.
Well, and he also does have the chip lead now. You know, it's not a case of for the better part of the previous hour. You know, Olaf had a significant lead on everyone and would be in a solid position. You know, but that chip lead does give you a significant advantage in being able to play. And Ruben also, I think, of the three, is probably the most comfortable in saying, "All right, no deal, let's play."
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's doing it.
You would guess the money means the least to him. He's got the most chips. He's got the most experience, and he probably, for argument's sake, we'll just say he's got the edge as well. You know, skill-wise.
Well, he's been on final tables before,
right?
So he's more comfortable.
He's got
in
everything
that
going
atmosphere
for him to get the best of this deal.
Answer this quickly, Neil. And one says, this is ridiculous. Why bother having a final table? Why bother having top 5 payouts if they're afraid to play for their money and not win this legitimately?
Well, I understand that argument, but one thing that you also have to remember to an extent is, unlike, say, maybe Wimbledon or the Masters in golf or something, all of the prize money is the player's money. Like it would be if PokerStars added $1 million to the prize pool, we could say no, you have to do this because it's our money. But this is the players' money, and if they say no, we think 700 is too big. We want first prize to be 600 and second prize to be 500. There's not really anything that we can do about it. The reason we've gone this way is because whether people want to admit it or not, deals have existed in poker for probably as long as there's been poker tournaments.
That's right, and it's a matter that we do admit it now.
Yeah, it's. I would rather have these three sitting at the table with my tournament director and a laptop, doing everything above board, so we know where the money went, than have this happen in the bathroom and have it happen where maybe two of the people do a deal, and then now they're essentially tag teamed the third guy because they've decided, oh, well, let's just chop. If we win first and third or first and second, we chop it. So we've gotten the deals out of the bathrooms, out of the back rooms, and it's right up here. And it also then can help. Maybe if when Mantis has to go back to Lithuania, if he wins and everything proclaims card player, Hendon Mob, everything says, look, you won 700 grand, he's going to have a piece of paper from PokerStars saying, no, I won 550. Please don't try and tax me on 700,000. Look, here's my receipt. And you can contact the EPT and everything. And now all the reporting will be correct, and it'll say 550.
They're getting very specific on this deal. I think I saw Ruben digging in his pocket for change.
Cameron on Twitter says they should chop by height. Olaf's going to get the lion's share in that case.
427, 564. I heard 427, 5640 or something like that.
I can't write, sorry.
We're having penmanship issues with Ruben Visser.
That's good negotiation tactic. You admit to being bad with penmanship, but don't give in on the money.
By the way, Mantis just said he's happy with the numbers that have been proposed. Not sure about Olaf, though.
Okay, I can give this almost 7,000.
455. Sounds good to me. Total for me.
Ruben's asking for 455, I think.
And I'm giving on the 7th.
Yeah, he's giving the 6.9.
Okay, yeah.
So,
Yeah, if you do like 2.5 more, or yeah, 2.5 more, then I think we're deal.
maybe you want to. I talked to my friends, like their percentage and said I won't give up.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Looks like we have an agreement.
This 455. You stay at that. And we should have this 1.4 total minus the 140. So that means 455. Then total.
Ruben's not being very helpful by actually reading the numbers out.
Yeah. This total.
Yeah, you get this. That's your total, which leaves me with...
But James, imagine top 3 cars in an F1 race being pulled over by their teams on track so they can discuss a deal worth millions. Nonsense, says Anwan.
That's a real, like, legitimate comparison.
How many river cards do they have in F1 racing, by the way?
These are the numbers.
Just wondering.
With the 140.
Anybody? How many 60-40, 70-30 situations? Pretty common in F1? I don't know a lot about F1 racing.
Me either, but I'm sure that Ferrari's happy for them to pull over and discuss chops of Ferrari's money, you know, as we get to the end.
Actually, Matthew sums this up perfectly. He says, people complaining about the deal is so tilting. It's as much a part of tournament poker as learning pre-flop calling ranges. Then again, most of the people complaining probably have no idea about pre-flop calling ranges.
I would tend to agree with that, I suppose. As going back to kind of my earlier comment, I'd rather have it happening like this, where it's all out there, and you know, and again, to all the people who want to compare it to other sports, I'm one of those. I like to think of poker as a sport. I'm not going to go into whether poker players are athletes. We just don't have that kind of time, no matter how long this webcast takes. But if it's a sporting competition, this is why I personally am against re-entry on main events. If this is, you know, if you knock Nadal out in the quarters, you shouldn't have to beat him again in the finals. So this is all the players' money, and it's theirs to do with as they want.
So we're just trying to get verification of what numbers the players have come up with. A reminder that
even Toby can't read Ruben's handwriting.
A reminder that after Theo Jorgensen bust in fourth, the remaining 3 players asked for the tournament clock to be paused, and they are discussing a potential deal.
Neil, I have a question.
Yep.
So when you say they're going to leave 140 to play for, is that just to the winner, or is that going to be divided up between second and first?
99 times out of 100 it goes just to the winner, because usually they're locking up so much money that it's not that big of a deal. Every once in a while they'll turn around and say, well, what if, okay, so it's 140,
Like 140
100 to
or
first and 40 to second, kind of thing. Lots of times it's, and this kind of goes back to the people that are at the final table and how it matters. To how much the money matters to each player that's there. If you've got a couple people up there where 400 grand is not a life-changing amount, they're going to be less inclined to really care one way or the other. If you've got some people up there where 400 grand is paying off their house, all their cars, and putting a kid through college, then they're going to be entitled to kind of claw for every penny, every cent, every pence, as it were.
Well, a reminder of the advertised payouts. Third place is 245,000, second 455,000, first place 700,000.
Well, and those for wondering kind of how it worked out, what Toby did down there with Ruben is the 245,000, which is third. When you're looking at the prize pool, you give third to the remaining 3 players, and you say, all right, your total starts at 245. Then we take the remaining prize pool, we remove what we've requested to hold, which in this case was 140,000, and you take the remaining money, which I'm assuming was what, 5, 750, 8, 4, like probably about 500 or 600,000 in that range. Forgive my fast math. And then that money is what's chopped up amongst the remaining 3 players based on their chip equity, or their ICM standings, as it were.
So obviously, even if a deal is done, and there's no guarantee that it will be, although the 3 players do seem...
It's looking likely.
Yeah.
Do seem to be on top of this. They will continue playing, and the champion will receive £140,000 on top of the agreed sum they've come to in the deal. Plus, of course, they will be the EPT title holder. Just because you've done a deal doesn't tarnish the title and the trophy in any way.
No.
And Andrew writes in to say, give it to the EPT for facilitating the chop, unlike WSOPC, where deals are made away from table, keeps taxes and people's words straight.
As I said, we talked about this a couple days ago, and in Deauville. I'm a huge proponent of this. We worked for a couple of years in Stars to be able to put this out here. And, I'll give you an example. There's the PCA that Paria Nazari won in 2009. Benny Spindler took about 400 grand more out of that event than Paria did. Paria got 1.9, Benny took 2.3. Benny came in third, and Paria got the title. While I'm sure Benny's happy with the money, I don't think Paria feels that title is lessened in any way, shape, or form by the fact.
Ruben Visser's just tweeted, by the way, guys. He's just tweeted 3-way deal agreed, £455,000 guaranteed, and we are playing for £140,000 for the winner. So Ruben is claiming that they have agreed the deal and that he will get £455,000. Once all 3 players have told tournament director Toby Stone that they are happy with the deal, we'll have the details, and we'll give you those details right here on EPT Live.
Attention spectators, we have come to a deal here.
Toby's making an announcement.
I think they chopped it straight 3 ways.
140,000 and the trophy. I'm going to announce the deal. Manta's going to receive 377,436, Olaf 427,564, and Ruben 455,000. Once again, we're playing for 140,000 and the EPT title and the trophy. So players, would you like to come back to the table so we can continue, please? Men players.
So just to go over what Toby Stone announced, £377,000 locked up for Mantas Vizotskis, £427,000 for Olaf Haglund, £455,000 for Ruben Visser, and whoever wins this thing will also receive 140 grand plus the EPT title and trophy.
That can't be much more than an ICM chop.
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's 2.2 million between top and bottom, 5.2 million for Mantas, 7.4 million for Ruben in a chip count wise. So that's got to be pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no math wizard, but it seems pretty close to.
I'm sure one of our Twitter guys will punch everything directly into
I'm sure they'll punch me
ICM.
directly in the throat for getting that wrong, but we will. I'm sure some brain buster out there will let us know exactly what it would have been.
To the people out there on Twitter, I mean, you're never shy. What do we think of the deal?
Well, Frank says this is so effing stupid.
Thanks, Frank. I would ask that in the future you not sugarcoat it, and you like
tell us what you
let
really
us know
think.
what you really, really feel about it.
Malcolm says, I didn't realize poker tournaments resemble the yearly game of Monopoly I play with my family at Christmas. Well, I think all these people... Never mind.
I only play a yearly game of Monopoly with the McDonald's people. I have yet to win anything other than a free Big Mac, though.
Dennis says, how much do you donate to the casino from your prize money normally? Because I never know how much I should give the casino for my cash. First of all, I would recommend never giving a single dime to the casino. Now, if you want to donate to the dealers, that's actually something Neil is very qualified to answer.
I would never, ever tell anyone what they should tip. What I tell people, we do take 3% out of the prize money to pay our staff.
To pay the staff or to for a bonus for the staff?
No, that's essentially the staff's wage. The staff has there's no hourly, there's no anything. If all the hours are added up, divided into the 3% and any extra money that's tipped. What I tell players all the time is if you feel that the dealing standard was a really good quality, that you had a good, pleasant experience with all of our staff, we're always happy to accept any gratuity that they want to add, but it's never required in any way, shape, or form. I think I've been in this business a long time. I was a dealer, I was a floor guy, a tournament director. Now my current role was
Look, I want you to peel back the curtain for real. If some guy walks away from the tournament and doesn't tip, will the players talk? Will the dealers be like, oh, this guy didn't tip, didn't leave anything?
That's hard. If in that circumstance, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Of course, they'll know if the guy who won stiffed.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be
so
real.
You should
We're on
leave
the EPT
something.
webcast.
Is there a certain percentage that you can put on it? Like, is if it's a huge figure?
No, because it also, to an extent, then we go back to. I mean, you can even put it into the deal ramifications. What if, let's say, Ruben, he's got the 455. Let's say he wins, he gets the extra 140. He's now won 595 for his EPT London victory. What if he only has 20% of himself?
Right.
You know, now if he tips, you know, he won 600 grand, and he says, all right, I'll break off 20 grand. You know, or 15,000 or something. Well, if he's only got 20% of himself, and his backers are like, "Wait a minute, we're not paying for you to tip the dealers," then you know now if he leaves
so
$2 grand,
it's
a significant amount of what he won. So and it's the same. The reality is if players say the 3% is good and they don't want to tip, I don't have any problem with saying that. I'm happy if they really want to tip, though. We try to provide the best service possible with the dealers and everything. And, of course, we appreciate anything anybody wants to leave. And if the guy wants to leave $1, then he leaves $1. It's
You're here to hear first, folks. Tip your servers.
So, just to recap the details of the deal. Mantas Vysotskis has locked up £377,000. Olaf Haglund has got £427,500. Ruben Visser is guaranteed £455,000, but they will play on in around 5 minutes' time. The players are taking a short break. They are playing for the EPT title, the trophy, and an additional £140,000. So a short break, and then back in 5. Three-handed action about to kick off on the PokerStars.net European Poker Tour.